The moon is the only natural satellite of the Earth. It is one of the brightest objects in the sky after the sun. It has no light of its own and reflects the light of the sun. Surface of the moon. It is covered with a layer of dust and has mountains, lava plains, valleys and craters. The craters are big, deep holes which, according to the scientists, were formed when rocks from outer space, known as meteorites, collided with the moon. The hitting of the meteorites broke up the surface of the moon. This caused lava present in the core to flow out from these craters. When this lava cooled down, it formed plains, rocks, etc. These craters were formed about 3.5 to 4.5 billion years ago. Atmospheric conditions on the moon. The moon has no atmosphere. There is no air and weather on it. It is extremely hot during the day and freezing cold at night on the moon as compared to the Earth. Phases of the moon. The moon appears to change its shape every day. This is because we see only the part of the moon which reflects the light of the sun. The shape of the moon varies from a thin crescent to a full moon. These different shapes of the moon are called phases of the moon. The different phases of the moon are as follows. New moon. When the side of the moon facing the Earth does not receive any sunlight and we cannot see the moon, then it is called a new moon. Crescent moon. When only a small portion of the facing side of the moon gets sunlight and becomes visible to us, we call it crescent moon. Half moon. When half portion of the facing side of the moon becomes illuminated, we call it half moon. Gibbous moon. When almost 3/4 of the facing side of the moon receives sunlight, it is called gibbous moon. Full moon. When the entire side of the moon facing the Earth is illuminated, we call it full moon. All the above stages together are known as waxing phase of the moon. After this, the cycle reverses and the size of the illuminated facing side of the moon starts reducing. These stages are collectively referred to as waning phase of the moon. Eclipses. An eclipse is the partial or total blocking of the light of the sun by a heavenly body like the Earth or the moon. Solar eclipse. When the sun, the moon and the Earth are in a straight line, then the moon blocks the sunlight reaching the Earth and casts its shadow on the Earth. This is called a solar eclipse. When the moon completely hides the sun, it is a total solar eclipse. When it hides the sun only partially, it is a partial solar eclipse. A solar eclipse lasts for only a few minutes. Lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse occurs when the Earth comes in between the sun and the moon. The Earth blocks the sunlight reaching the moon, thereby casting its shadow on it. When the Earth's shadow completely covers the moon, it is a total lunar eclipse. When it covers the moon only partially, it is a partial lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse can last up to an hour and a half, and it is absolutely safe to watch it with naked or unaided eyes. Expedition to the moon. The first people to land on the moon were 3 American astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin, and Michael Collins. The spacecraft that carried them was Apollo 11, and it landed on the moon on 20th July 1969. Neil Armstrong was the first person to set foot on the moon and was followed by Edwin Aldrin. Michael Collins stayed back in the spacecraft. Artificial satellites. Artificial satellites are man-made objects which continuously orbit the Earth or some other heavenly body in the universe. The first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1, was launched by the Soviet Union in 1957. Depending upon their uses, artificial satellites are of 6 main types. Scientific research. These satellites gather information about the universe for research purposes. Weather. These satellites help scientists to study weather patterns and forecast the weather. Communication. These satellites receive and transmit radio signals around the world. They also send signals for television programs and telephone calls. Navigation. Navigation satellites help aircrafts, ship, etc. to determine their location. Earth observing. Such satellites gather information about our planet, like the status of natural resources on the Earth and other changes. Military. These satellites collect information for military purposes.